Deep in the freezing heart of Antarctica, something massive is waking up, and it is far more than just a telescope. Hidden under miles of ice, the Pentagon has allegedly turned a billion-dollar science project into the ultimate global control system. This is a key detail that most people completely miss, because they are too busy looking at the stars. Experts say this tech can trigger earthquakes and talk to things across the galaxy instantly.
Spanish newspaper ABC quotes Chavez as saying that the U.S. Navy launched a weapon capable of inducing a powerful earthquake off the shore of Haiti.
But here is the catch. Once this system is fully powered up, there is absolutely no way to turn it off.
ARCO originally approached me in 1984 to find a use for the natural gas on the North Slope of Alaska, which they could not sell. To give you a feel for how much gas they asked me to find an application for, it was enough gas to produce all the electricity in the United States for a full year. Applications discussed in the patents included destroying missiles. Communications control and disruption were included. There were some other ideas, both to possibly modify weather and finally to lift a portion of the upper atmosphere further out into space, where hopefully it would be able to deflect missile trajectories.
The statement that there is no association between the ionosphere and surface weather is an outright lie. We can artificially influence the Earth's aurora with a relatively small amount of energy, and we know that outbursts of the northern lights do change weather patterns. There is indeed mounting evidence that upper atmospheric events affect lower atmospheric weather and vice versa.
What they're not paying any attention to is what's happening to the ionosphere. If they pick the right frequency to push that plume out into space, that energy may discharge back out of the ionosphere, back down the radio beam, and strike the Earth. And it would be about 100 times the energy released out of a thunderbolt. Picking up now.
Holy fuck.
And it would be about 100 times the energy released out of a thunderbolt.
Ice walls hiding ancient power. Right now, in 2026, the world is looking at new technology in a way we never have before. But while everyone is talking about robots and computer brains, the real power is sitting at the bottom of the world. It is called the IceCube Neutrino Observatory. On the outside, it looks like a place where smart people go to study space. But here is the deal. This place is located at the Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station, and it is huge. We are talking about 1 cubic kilometer of ice that has been turned into a giant sensor. To put that in U.S. measures, that is a block of ice about 3,200 feet long, wide, and deep. Inside this ice, there are over 5,000 digital modules. These are basketball-sized glass balls that are buried way down from 4,700 feet to 8,000 feet deep. The official story is that these sensors look for neutrinos. These are tiny particles that come from exploding stars and black holes. They are so small that billions of them pass through your body every second, and you never feel a thing. But what most people do not realize is that a major military contractor named Raytheon built this place. And get this. A former worker who spent 366 days at the station says the machine is not just a listener. He says it is a transmitter. The crazy part is that each one of those 5,000 modules can put out over 2,000 volts. When you multiply that, you get a massive amount of energy. One of the most overlooked aspects of this story is that this energy can be pushed into the Earth to create seismic events. Basically, it is an earthquake weapon that no one can see coming. There are still many rumors in the air, But what many can confirm is that strange things happen when this machine is turned on. In 2020, there was a swarm of 85,000 tiny earthquakes in Antarctica. People were confused, but some think it was a test of this unstoppable power. See, the Pentagon loves things that cannot be stopped. They are currently working on things like drone swarms and missiles that fly 5 times the speed of sound. But a machine that can move the ground is on a whole different level. It is not that simple, though. This machine might also be talking to things that are not from this world. Some say it is a way to communicate faster than light. If that is true, the Pentagon has a tool that changes everything we know about war and space. What is coming next will change the history of our planet forever. Broken oaths and hidden truths. A man named Eric Hecker came forward to tell a story that sounds like a movie. He worked as a plumber and a firefighter at the South Pole Station for a full year. Because of his job, he had to go everywhere to fix things. He saw the wires, the power rooms, and the secret maps. He says that the South Pole is not just for science. He believes it is a center for high-tech weapons and space travel. Many are not seeing the truth here because the government keeps it all very quiet. But Hecker says he saw the ground shake when they ran tests. He says the IceCube project is a phased array. That means it can point energy in a specific direction. Imagine a giant flashlight made of ice, but instead of light, it shoots out massive waves of energy. This energy can travel through the planet and come out the other side. So, here is the deal. If the military can point this energy at a fault line in another country, they could start an earthquake without ever dropping a bomb. Nobody expected this to happen, but this tech might have been used already. Hecker points to the big earthquake in Christchurch back in 2011. He says it happened right when the station was doing its first big tests. But here is the catch. This machine is also allegedly used for air traffic control, but not for normal planes. Hecker says he saw craft that moved in ways no human plane can. These exotic vehicles use the South Pole as a hub. The machine uses neutrino beams to send messages across the solar system instantly. This is a key detail, because normal radio waves take a long time to travel through space. If you want to talk to someone on Mars, it takes minutes. With this tech, it takes 0 seconds. The Pentagon is spending billions of dollars on what they call black budget programs. This means the public never sees where the money goes. For starters, hands down, the South Pole is the perfect place to hide this. It is far away, it is cold, and the ice is 2 miles thick. You can hide a whole city down there and no one would ever know. Hecker even says there is an ELF system, which stands for extremely low frequency. These waves can travel through the ocean to talk to submarines, but they can also be used to mess with people's minds. The crazy part is how many people are starting to believe him. He spoke under oath at a big meeting in Washington, D.C. in 2023. He showed maps and talked about how the power levels at the station are way higher than what a simple telescope would need. It takes a lot of juice to run a machine that can talk to the stars. The secrets hidden in the ice are starting to melt away. Shaking ground under our feet.
There are several high-powered radio antennas around the world, but in relation to HAARP, they're like a child's cap gun compared to a 50mm cannon. When you look at the other patents built upon the work of Eastland, it becomes clear how the military intends to use a HAARP transmitter. It could give them a tool to replace the electromagnetic pulse effect of some atmospheric thermonuclear devices still considered an option by some planners. It can replace the huge, extremely low-frequency submarine communication system. It could replace the over-the-horizon radar system once planned for the current location of HAARP with a much more accurate system.
In 1983, I did radio tomography with 30 watts, looking for oil in the ground. I found 26 oil wells over a 9-state area, and 100% of the time was accurate with just 30 watts of power beaming straight into solid rock. HAARP, or the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project, uses 2 billion watts beamed straight into the ionosphere for experiments. Now, that's profoundly dangerous.
Everyone is obsessed with the idea of HARP. This was a project in Alaska that used big antennas to study the sky. For years, people have said it could control the weather or cause disasters. But while everyone was looking at Alaska, the Pentagon was building something much bigger in Antarctica. HARP uses the air, but IceCube uses the Earth. One of the most overlooked aspects of seismic weapons is that they are very hard to prove. When a mountain shakes or a city falls, people usually think it is just nature. But it is not that simple, though. If you hit the Earth at the right frequency, you can make it ring like a bell. This is called resonance. The Pentagon has been studying this since the days of Nikola Tesla. Tesla once said he could split the Earth in two with a small machine if he had enough time. Now, think about 5,000 sensors buried in the ice. If each one sends out a small pulse at the same time, they create a massive wave. This is basically how a phased array works. It is like everyone in a stadium doing the wave at the exact same time. The power adds up until it is unstoppable. Many are not seeing the truth here because they think the ice is just a boring desert. But to the military, that ice is a giant lens that can focus energy. There is a lot of people confused about why the military needs this now. In 2026, the Pentagon released a new plan for AI and fast warfare. They want weapons that can win a fight before the enemy even knows a fight has started. An earthquake weapon is the ultimate version of that. You can destroy an enemy base, and everyone will just think it was a tragic natural event. And get this. The South Pole Station is run by the National Science Foundation, but the people doing the work are often military contractors. Raytheon is one of the biggest. They make missiles, radars, and high-tech sensors. Why would a missile company be so interested in a hole in the ice? The answer is simple. They are building a tool that gives them full control over the planet. But there is still a catch. Using this much power is dangerous. Some scientists worry that if you shake the Earth too much, you might start a chain reaction that you cannot stop. Once the plates start moving, they do not always stop where you want them to. This is why it is called an unstoppable force. It is like playing with fire in a house made of paper. A single mistake could turn the entire world into a disaster zone. Interstellar hub under the snow. What most people do not realize is that the South Pole might be more than just a base for humans. Some believe it is a door to the rest of the galaxy. Eric Hecker and other whistleblowers say that the neutrino beams from IceCube are actually a form of interstellar internet. Since neutrinos can go through anything, they are the perfect way to send data across long distances without any interference. See, hands down, if you were an alien visitor, you would need a place to land that was quiet and away from people. Antarctica is 54 million square miles of empty ice. That is larger than the United States and Mexico combined. It is the perfect place for a secret airport. Hecker claims he saw craft that did not have wings or engines. They just floated and then shot off into space faster than anything he had ever seen. The crazy part is that the Pentagon might be working with these visitors. This is where things get really wild. Some say the Pentagon is reverse engineering this tech to build our own unstoppable ships. This is a key detail because it explains why the military budget is so high. We are not just building better tanks, we are building things that break the laws of physics. A lot of people are confused about why this is all happening now. Well, in 2023, the government started to admit that UFOs are real. They call them UAPs now. They said they have found things that they cannot explain. But here is the deal. If they already have a base in Antarctica to talk to these things, they are much further ahead than they are letting on. One of the most overlooked aspects of the IceCube array is how it uses quantum entanglement. This is a fancy way of saying that two particles can be connected no matter how far apart they are. If you change one, the other changes instantly. If the Pentagon has figured out how to use this with neutrinos, they can send a message to the other side of the universe in 1 second. This makes the South Pole the most important place on Earth. But there is a dark side to this. If we are inviting things here, who are they? And what do they want? Some theories say that the Pentagon is not in charge, and that they are just doing what they are told. This is putting it lightly, as some believe we are being prepared for a massive change in how our world works. The truth might be waiting just beneath the surface of the snow. Global control beyond our reach. We have officially hit a point where the line between high-level physics and what we'd call magic has basically vanished. By 2026, the Pentagon isn't just playing with drones and satellites anymore. They're deploying systems that feel like they were ripped straight out of a Philip K. Dick novel. We are looking at a full-scale rollout of tools that range from tectonic manipulation to interstellar comms, all running under a blanket of secrecy so thick you couldn't cut it with a diamond saw. The reality is that the world is moving way faster than the average person can track, mostly because the backbone of this new era is buried in places no one ever visits. The military has stopped worrying about just controlling the land and sea. Now they're looking at the very fabric of the planet, using AI to juggle variables that would make a human brain melt in seconds. The scariest part of this shift in 2026 is how much we've handed over to the machines. We're not just talking about predictive text or self-driving cars. We're talking about the total automation of planetary warfare. The decision to fire off a high-energy beam or trigger a seismic pulse is being offloaded to algorithms. In this new doctrine, an AI identifies a threat and executes a response before a human operator even has time to blink. It's not just about efficiency. It's about a fire-and-forget mentality that has moved from the tactical level to the existential one. If a computer decides a satellite needs to be neutralized or a specific geological fault line needs a nudge, it happens instantly. We've built a system where the fire button is just a line of code, and that should keep everyone up at night. Then you have the South Pole, which has become the undisputed hub for this magic tech. For years, we were fed this boring story about Antarctica being a neutral ground for scientists to look at ice cores. That narrative is dead. The South Pole is now the nerve center for a power structure that is essentially untouchable. Take the IceCube Neutrino Observatory. Officially, it's a passive science project. But if you listen to guys like Eric Hecker, you start to realize those thousands of sensors buried in the ice aren't just watching for particles. They look more like a massive phased array antenna system. Because ice is so stable and crystal clear, it's the perfect medium for transmitting frequencies that would get scrambled anywhere else. This isn't just for checking the weather. It's about turning the entire continent into a giant directed energy weapon or a global signaling station. Let's get into the wild stuff, because the theories coming out of 2026 are getting darker. One of the biggest rumors is that these polar facilities are actually earthquake machines. By using low-frequency acoustic resonance, the military could theoretically trigger a seismic event along any fault line on the planet. It's the ultimate move for plausible deniability. You can wreck a rival's economy or take out a key port, and it just looks like a natural disaster. There's no smoking gun, no missile trail, just a tragic act of God that happens to perfectly align with U.S. strategic interests. If you can tune the frequency of the machine to the resonant frequency of a specific tectonic plate, you own the board. But it goes even further than that. There's a growing school of thought that the ice in Antarctica isn't even natural. Or at least, it's being maintained as a massive cooling system. Think about it. If you're running a planetary-scale supercomputer or a massive energy weapon, the heat output would be off the charts. You'd need a heat sink the size of a continent to keep the hardware from melting. Some people are theorizing that the Pentagon found ancient, pre-human technology buried deep under the ice and repurposed it, using our modern AI to finally crack the code. This would explain the massive, unexplained energy spikes recorded at the pole. We might not just be building new tech, we might be jump-starting a machine that was left behind millions of years ago. There is also the space radio theory. If you have a transmitter powerful enough to blast signals through the Earth's core, you have a transmitter powerful enough to reach the stars. The energy being pumped into the South Pole grid suggests we're trying to talk to something or someone way outside our atmosphere. We could be looking at a lighthouse for non-human entities, a way to signal craft that operate in deep space or even different dimensions. Some whistleblowers claim the South Pole is a thin spot in reality, a place where the magnetic field is just right for opening rifts or folding space. If that sounds crazy, look at the budget. You don't spend hundreds of billions of dollars on a science lab unless you're getting something world-changing out of it. The real kicker is that once this machine is live, you can't just turn it off. The energy is already circulating through the crust. The global grid, from 5G towers to the fiber optics on the ocean floor, is all being integrated into this singular system. We've basically turned the Earth into a giant, wired-up circuit board. The risk here is that we're creating feedback loops we don't understand. If the AI managing the tectonic stabilizers or the energy beams hits a glitch, the consequences aren't just a blue screen of death, they're tsunamis and atmospheric collapses. We are playing a game with the planet's hardware, and we don't have the manual. The government is world-class at keeping a lid on this, but the truth is leaking out. We see the heavy transport planes, the massive fuel shipments, and the disappearing billions in the black budget. We are living on a planet that has been retrofitted with hidden gears, and we're all just passengers on a machine we no longer control. The Pentagon has built something so massive and so integrated into the Earth's physical structure that it's now a permanent part of our environment. We have to start asking why our future is being built under a mile of ice without our consent. At the end of the day, the question is whether we are the masters of this tech or just the subjects living on its surface. The power to move continents or talk to the stars is a lot for any group to handle, especially one that operates in total darkness. We have to hope there's some wisdom behind the wheel, because if there isn't, we're all in for a very rough ride. This is the biggest story of our lifetime, and even though it's buried at the bottom of the world, its effects are right under our feet, humming with a power that's just getting started. Are we ready for a world where the weather and the earth are just tools for the powerful? Would you trust the government with a machine that can move the ground? Let us know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's biggest secrets. See you in the next one.